Hey everybody, it's Joe with J Blake Photo. I wanted to follow up from my last video when I talked about the kind of the rumors from the Nikon mirrorless camera that's going to be coming out. So the camera's not out yet, so there's no new news, and from what I can tell, there's not a whole lot of new rumors. But I did want to talk a little bit about what I would want for me specifically, or what I think some other folks might want, or what might be just kind of table stakes and necessary for a new camera system in 2018. So let's talk about that for a couple minutes. Okay, so just a recap from the previous video, we were talking about what is going to be, or what we think might be a part of that new Nikon mirrorless camera system. So there's a couple different things, but primarily that there's going to be two models in the Z Series, 24 megapixel model that is going to be fast and do exceptionally well in low light, and then a 45 megapixel version that's probably going to be better for studio photography, as well as some primes and a number of other, kind of mount related technologies that are going to be coming out. I don't know, we'll see when it gets released. But it's got me thinking just a lot about, okay, so Sony's got a really successful mirrorless system. It seems to be that they've just actually passed Canon as the #1 worldwide camera company. And I shoot Canon, and I know that Canon has looked at mirrorless systems in the past. They've got the M6 and the M50. I've actually got a video where I talked a lot about the M50. If you want to go ahead and take a look at that, that's going to be right over here. I can never tell where the YouTube here. It's going to be somewhere up here. There'll be a link. Watch for the little bubbles to pop up. So I did a video on the Canon M50, my thoughts, and whether or not that would be something worth switching to from a full frame digital SLR. So I kept thinking, okay, from a YouTube perspective, there's a couple things that you have to have, right? You know, it would need like a flip out screen. You need an external audio input source for your fluffy microphones, and a couple of other things like dual SD card slots for backup, high ISO rating for low light photography and videography, custom programmable modes, just all of these things that I kind of feel are at this point kind of table stakes for a new camera system. They can't just throw out a system and have it be less capable than the current system. I mean, they're not Apple. I'm looking at you, Final Cut. So I thought about it real hard, and I wanted to come up with a list of 5 things that I thought would be super important for a new mirrorless camera system, or any new camera system, regardless of whether or not it was mirrorless or a mirrored system, that would just need to have these features to be successful. So number 1 would be 4K video. Now, I know what you're gonna say, duh, 4K video is a duh, but not just 4K, 4K with no crop, no push-in, 4K 100% sensor. So instead of just carving out a part of the sensor that only that number of pixels can the chip on board the camera handle, and then compress down to 4K, because even a part of the chip is going to be more than 4K, and then it scales it down. But the whole chip, give me the whole chip. If I throw a 50mm lens on my camera and I'm going to shoot 4K, I need to be able to shoot at 50mm. I can't keep 2 different sets of lenses just so that I know, okay, am I doing photography? Am I shooting in 1080p? Am I shooting in 4K? But 4K at 60 frames a second, and it's got to have no push-in. 100% sensor coverage, 4K video, 60 frames a second. That is just an absolute must-have, I think, in 2018 for any new system. Number 2, so if you are Nikon or Canon or Sony or Olympus or Fuji or any of these camera companies, and you develop a new camera system, it needs to interface well with your previous lenses. The rule of photography for the last 20 years is don't worry about bodies, buy glass. So as a Canon person, I have thousands of dollars of Canon lenses that if Canon were to come out with the best mirrorless system in the world, wouldn't matter to me if I couldn't transition to it with my existing glass. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be perfect. I'm not saying that it has to be exactly the same. I'm not saying that Nikon needs to take their standard mount and put it on this, mirrorless system. Just like I wouldn't expect Canon to come out with a new mirrorless system and have it just mount directly to the EF lenses or EFS. I know that that's not going to happen, but having good adapters at start of release, so day and date, you've got the camera box and right next to it you've got the adapter. I would go so far as saying that it would be worthwhile for them to make those adapters at cost or even sell them at a loss, because then you're going to get adoption very quickly from people who are already invested in your lenses, which then allows you to continue to build brand cachet, which is really important for these companies. And Sony right now is winning. But even though Sony's lenses have improved over time, I think a big part of why Sony was so successful is because initially they had good adapters for Canon lenses, so that a lot of people could be working directly with Sony cameras, but they could use their previous glass. Of course, that's in addition to having good lenses that are native to the platform. Like, you have to have good glass that's ready to go right away. All right, number 3, autofocus. The system has to have amazing autofocus. That's both to hit the Sony side of things, where they've got almost 700 autofocus points that cover the entire sensor on like the A9, which I know is difficult to do with a DSLR. But even the DSLRs with 63 to 100 cross-type autofocus points, if you're looking at the Canon environment, when they switched to video, they had this amazing dual pixel autofocus. That's why I bought a Canon DSLR to do video in the first place, is because of the dual pixel autofocus. So Nikon, when you release this camera, it has to have amazing full frame autofocus points on stills, and it needs to have phenomenal dual pixel AF style autofocusing with eye tracking, facial tracking in video mode. It has to have that. If it doesn't have that, it's dead on arrival, especially for Nikon, who has a very bad reputation in autofocus for video. Okay, number 4, and this is more for me, but I really do think that if this feature comes out with some of the newer camera systems, it will become table stakes. It will become like autofocus was at one point, or some of the other features that we now kind of take for granted, and that's internal image stabilization that works in conjunction with lens-based image stabilization. It's possible, we know it's possible, but maybe if you plug in your older lenses that have IS but they don't talk to the internal sensor IS, maybe you can shut one off and you can choose which one is going to be better for you. But having that 5-axis internal stabilization, that has to be there. And I think if Nikon includes this in their mirrorless camera that they're coming out with, I think it'll turn into kind of, okay, Sony has it, Nikon has it, where's Canon, where's Fuji, where's Olympus in terms of standardizing this as normal for your standard mirrorless camera. And number 5, last but not least, is the price. I understand that there's going to be 2 different versions of this camera and they are trying to hit the professional market. But if this thing comes out at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, again, I think it's dead on arrival. I think if you're trying to target users who are already shooting with the A9 from Sony, maybe the Canon 1DX Mark II, or the Nikon D5, or maybe even the Nikon D850, or the Canon 5D Mark IV, I don't think you're going to be able to pull those people away with a mirrorless solution unless it has every single feature and ready to go glass and ready to go adapters out of the box. But if you're trying to introduce this system to folks and you're trying to get people in, I would say that maybe somewhere between the $1,500 to $2,500 mark for that 24 megapixel, and then maybe I would say to go as high as maybe $3,200 to $3,300 for the for this Z7, the 45 megapixel version. I think if you price it like that, you'll absolutely be able to grab people. It's still a professional camera system, but you're able to say, okay, this is pro, here's the glass, here's the price, come on in. And then start looking at maybe a flagship model down the road that you can charge $4,500 or up to $6,000 for once you actually get a market, once you actually get a consumer base. But if you drop this thing out at $5,000 to $6,000, again, the people who spent $5,000 to $6,000 on their existing models, unless they're really looking to upgrade and they love Sony, unless they're really looking to upgrade and they're just not happy with their D5, which I don't think a lot of people who are that invested in Nikon would be, they're not gonna drop that camera. They're not gonna buy that new camera. So then it's flat, and then we're back to where Nikon was originally with their mirrorless system. And that's not gonna move the market forward, right? That's the whole point. We'll see what they're able to do with this new release. And I hope it pushes other camera manufacturers in this direction for new technology. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in videos like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I think I'm gonna put a picture of my face, like right over here. If you see a picture of my face, click it. That's the subscribe button. Here's some how-to videos that I've been working on editing drone footage and using the iPad Pro for some fun stuff. So go ahead and check that out if you like photography and videography videos. If you are subscribed to my channel, make sure you got that little bell on. That'll make sure that you get notified whenever you get a new video from me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, hit the like button. Thanks.